mentioned in our progress is that certification of teachers and of institutions in general remains a problem. But I think it's a good point that you mention it, and I would also perhaps see that it's reflected then in next year's progress report. And I think that what we focus on is also people having graduated, maybe more than people entering into university, so that might explain it a bit. Yes.
I have a small comment and a question for you. First, just to remind you that this event was completely organized by students, so the Club of Young Economists with the support of Ron, and it's going to be a great event, so thanks to our team. My question to you, Frank. This report progress shows the progress of Kosovo towards joining the EU. And we are all aware that it will take a few years. And you can trust me when I say that these students here have to play a major role in achieving these criteria. From that perspective, it will be very helpful that these students get a deep insight on the way how the EU functions. Would it be possible to arrange a small guide tour of our young economists to the European Union office in Pristina and get them familiar with the different offices and people working there, and maybe considering some internship positions so that they are also involved in this process within the EU office?
Yes, well, I forgot to mention the Club of Young Economists. I'm sorry for this, so thanks very much for organizing this also from my side. On the question, I think it's possible. I will look into it. In fact, we have a vacancy in our unit for an intern. Unfortunately it's unpaid, but I think it will still offer the opportunity to have a look in our internal cuisine and to see how our office is working and what processes the EU is engaged with in Kosovo. But on the tour, I will look into it and I will get back to you. I think it's a good idea.
Okay. Why not having such high interest rates compared to the region where the non-the rates are around 4.5%, which is lower compared to our associated countries?
Yes. Well, I think it has to do with one of the things I mentioned before, the weak enforceability of contracts. This is also valid for the banking sector. If you lend someone money and he doesn't pay you back, it's sometimes difficult to enforce it. So that is then immediately reflected in a higher interest rate. I think also the property rights play a role, that if the loan taker cannot, as collateral, give something which is clearly his or hers, banks will charge a higher interest rate. There's also an interesting thing, but this is only a suspicion that we have, is that, of course, the banking sector in Kosovo is rather concentrated. There are a few big banks that own almost 100% of the market. So one interesting thing is that the banking sector in Kosovo is more profitable than the banking sectors in the surrounding countries. So this might tell you something, that there's also a competition element here that is present. Yes, please.
Okay. So we keep coming back to the rule of law, and we've been able to see some of the activities that the Latin improve the rule of law this year, and I'd like to hear what are the plans for the U.S. improving and enhancing the current situation of the rule of law for the coming years. What is your strategy? And also I'd like to hear how do you see the fact that some of the government officers who are under U.S. investigations are running for elections?
Yes. Well, on the first part, I don't know the answer that well. I know that I think police officers would, or should at least, also be more involved in enforcing contracts. What I would say also that should happen is that EULEX could pay a bit more attention to the establishment of, for example, business courts that are specialized in private sector development. On the other issue, I mean, I'm not a political figure, but I would say that you know, nobody is guilty until he's proven guilty. On the other hand, you could also say that maybe there's also a moral consideration to make for the persons in questions themselves. But I would like to keep it at that.
Yeah, I have a question regarding the support of European Commission for information technology programs here in Kosovo. I know that there are, for example, programs within EU called Information Society and Framework, Program 7, FP7. How much Kosovo has benefited from these programs? And if not, what has Kosovo to do in order to benefit from the FP7 programs that are within European Union?
Yes, I think so far Kosovo did not really benefit from these programs, but this because they were not. It was just not possible for them to benefit because they are. They had been internal programs. I think maybe to some degree open to candidate member states, but not yet to potential candidate member states. But I think this has changed because last year we issued this study on Kosovo fulfilling its EU perspective, whereby Kosovo also gets access to internal programs of the EU, also in the area of education, by the way. But I think that the information technology programs, I would have to check, I don't know, but I think it would be a major, it would be of major importance to Kosovo, because I think this is one of the, I think, if you take a long-term perspective, one of the potentials for Kosovo. With a young population that speaks its languages relatively well, if you can guarantee good education, also especially in ICT, I think this would be a very good thing for Kosovo. But I will look this up. I'll see.
Take some final questions. Maybe just clarify just from that question. Maybe it's not yet clear that EULEX, the three pillars that Freek mentioned, the European Commission liaison office where we work, the EULEX, and the European specialists, they coexist. It's not a hierarchy. So we EULEX is not under our hierarchy, but we coexist, and we are all dependent on Brussels and Brussels policy.
Yes,
something to add, so that you understand why the European Commission and the EULEX and the prosecution, he's an economist, he knows the implication of EULEX work, but there's no direct link in hierarchy.
No, I'm sorry to say that I just don't know the exact priorities for the EULEX mission for next year. I would have to look that up. Yes, the EU is not a signatory to CEFTA, so it's not a partner itself in CEFTA. But of course, we have our own trade relations with Serbia, Since they introduced this blockage of goods stemming from Kosovo, we have mentioned this in our progress report, that this is actually an illegal act, because the customs stamps that Kosovo is using are customs stamps that are also, if you take a look at it from the Serbian perspective, endorsed by UNMIC. So they are considered status neutral by UNMIC. So they should also be acceptable to Serbia and Bosnia-Herzegovina. We are looking into ways, because this issue continues, as you know, we're looking into ways in how we can address this from the basis of our own trade agreement that we have with Kosovo. But this is very much a legal issue that our lawyers are looking into at the moment. But we, at least we are saying that even though we're not a SEFTA signatory, this to us seems an illegal act, because the customs stamps are what they are, and they are acceptable to UNMIC. So